Now, on the 13th day, the Almighty created Vauban in his own image. Go forth, my young train, throw balls and be praised. Or, I guess something inspirational like that, right? What's up, you beautiful feckers? How you all doing? Now, Vauban has kind of had this stigma attached to him for the longest time as being one of the less useful Warframes in-game. It's something that he earned after a year or three of mediocrity. The game has evolved past crowd-control centric Warframes, which is what he was, and now a new challenger is about to enter the game. Protea is not far away, hopefully next week or week after that. I mean, they said June, so that's a pretty sizable window. She is going to be a support-styled engineer type of Warframe with grenades, a type of turret, a dispenser for energy, health, ammo and so on. Stop me if all of these sound like familiar abilities, but also she will have the ability to rewind time. So some of those abilities basically are ones that Vauban players wanted for Vauban for his rework, but now Protea is going to get them instead. And with her imminent arrival, it kind of reminded me that I haven't given Vauban a fair shake of the stick since his rework. I haven't gone back and looked at him, I've totally ignored him. Now I still had a loadout in game called Warframe, which used to be Hydroid, but then I changed it to Vauban because of how I felt about him, so it is time to rectify that. I've spent the last few days playing as Vauban and I definitely expected to hate it, but I was definitely wrong. Vauban is bloody good, like really bloody good. For me at least, it fit my playstyle. Now those flechette orbs are amazing. I didn't mod him for photon spam because I like my eyeballs to actually work, but his new playstyle works well together. He has options which he didn't have as many of before. His new damage output mixed with the existing crowd control was nothing like the Vauban of old. He can now hold his own, which to some extent he couldn't do as well before. Not just a Bastille and Vortex spamming frame now, because that's kind of what he was. That's the old Vauban, praise be his name. So now his damage is increased against crowd control enemies, which he does a lot of. The Tesla Nervos drones, crowd control. His tether grenades, crowd control. The Bastille and Vortex, crowd control. So because of this, you're going to be dealing more damage. He can gain 1,000 bonus armor buff for himself and teammates just by standing inside his Bastille with enough enemies caught up inside it, and based on the amount of armor that has been stripped off them, because Bastille will strip armor bit by bit off enemies caught inside. He has scaling damage now based on the enemy level, so your damage is going to increase depending on the level of enemies you're up against from those flechette orbs that you throw out, those spinning kind of balls of death. His overdriver buff grenade also buffs those flechette orbs, while also buffing your damage and your teammates' damage nearby as well. Now those orbs or mini spinning turret balls work wonders in choke points or near objectives, and since you can have 4 of them down at maximum, it means that you can close off an area pretty bloody well. Now his photon strike, like I said, can be really hard on the eyes, especially if you've got a really bright colour, so if you're using that, please don't do that in public matches. Or his big artillery strike, which is kind of what the photon strike is, also scales with enemy levels, deals a lot of blast damage, knocks enemies down if they don't actually die, so the damage will always be on point since it scales if your build is centered around that photon strike. It also has an augment called Photon Repeater that allows you to spam the crap out of it with no energy cost once you hit 5 enemies or more, which is bloody easy, with Vauban's Bastille collapsing into a vortex, sucking enemies into a huge group and then just photon striking the crap out of them. Now as far as my build goes for my Vauban for this footage, it is just a basic build. It's nothing special. I only have 3 forma on him and this is it. It has a nice balance of power, strength, range, duration and of course efficiency as well, because you kind of need it for each one of his abilities. But Vauban right now is an incredible frame to play. He is definitely a frame that I would put down right now as being one of the best in game for my playstyle. Not sure about your playstyle, but one that I will definitely be using a hell of a lot more. I passed him off as simply being, I guess, a bad frame based on the fact that he's became a bit of a meme. So he has, like Hydroid was as well, and his past playstyle was overtaken by new Warframes, how they were more fun for me and my playstyle, and the fact that crowd control right now isn't used as much, and he didn't have a whole lot of damage output for his past playstyle, but now he does, so he's definitely worth looking at. I was wrong, one train to rule them all. Like the video or don't, subscribe or don't, and as always, thanks so much for watching.